I want to introduce myself right now, and I'll have our panelists introduce themselves in just a moment. But before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. First, thank you for being here. I think you're taking a really good step to prepare yourself to know more about the big decision that is whether law school is right for you, and if it is, how you can be well prepared to succeed with that big life decision. This webinar is being recorded, so we will share it with people who signed up, and it will be available to you later. We hope that will help you relax and listen and not worry about something you might miss. Another thing we're going to do to make sure you are able to relax and listen, we will send the notes and resources that we mention in this webinar. We will send a handout along to you that sort of includes those links, those resources, those email addresses. We will be mentioning a bunch of things today, and you don't have to worry that if you don't catch something or write it all down that you will miss it. We will follow up with that. So this webinar is being recorded. I hope that you will all mute yourselves until it's time to ask a question. Please feel free, we're all Zoom experts now, but to either raise your hand, send us signals, or write in the chat, and we will make sure to try to address your question as things move. And Susanna, I'm going to cue you to move us along to the next slide to help me remember what it was we were going to cover. So here's what we're talking about tonight. We're going to talk about this decision about law school, and we're going to start kind of at the end, right? We're going to start at the end of the journey, your destination. If your destination is law school, there are some kind of hard, clear, concrete things that you will need to navigate. And sometimes it's helpful to know as much as you can about that, so you know what you can be concerned about and what you don't need to worry so much about. It will make your other decisions easier. So we're going to kind of talk through this getting into law school, the timeline, and the things that will make a difference for you. We're going to talk about how Tufts will support you along the way, the Career Center resources, the clubs and organizations, the student and alumni groups, and some outside resources just to know about and keep in mind. We're going to talk about, important decisions along the way, right? What you might do during school, with your courses, with your majors, how you might steer your summers. And if you decide not to go straight to law school, if you choose to work for a while before you decide to apply to law school, how those decisions, might play into things. And then we'll kind of inspire you with some tales of other jumbos and the interesting work that they are now doing in advocacy, policy, governance, justice, the things that kind of bring us together if we're interested in law. Karen, Susanna, Amy, and Stephen, I wonder if you'll just, raise your hand, say hello. Stephen, you'll have a chance just in a minute to step in and say a little more, but this is my chance to ask my fellow experts, did I forget anything? And will you introduce yourself and say who you are and how you play a role in supporting Tufts aspiring lawyers?
Great.
Amy, let's start with you.
Yes, perfect. I was just going to say that.
All right, I'm Amy McDonald. I actually work in the Office of Alumni Relations over at Tufts, and I work with all the shared interest groups. So I work with all the alumni groups that, whether it's a professional network or an identity-based group, the Tufts Black alumni, the Latinx group, the lawyers, the entrepreneurs, so anything in that sort, or the alumni that I work with. And a lot of times we build relationships through mentoring and have events that are open for students to attend as well. So I actually was an attorney in Boston for about 15 years too. So I wear double hats that way, but that's why I'm always happy to help out any promising students who want to go to law school, and really excited to work with the Tufts Lawyer Association, which you're going to hear a lot more about later.
Hey everybody, I'm Susanna Krenn, and I am one of the career advisors in the Tufts Career Center, focusing on government law and international affairs. Just so excited that you're all here and looking forward to meeting people if I haven't already.
Hello, my name is Karen Donkers. I'm also an advisor in the Tufts Career Center. And like Susanna, I specialize in helping students interested in government, international affairs, law, all along the way throughout their 4 years, throughout the career process. So I'm glad you're all here as well.
Great. And I think I've introduced myself already, but I'm Sherry Mason. I'm the pre-law advisor, and you may be wondering, Susanna, Karen, and I are all in the Career Center. How do I know who to go see? Well, we'd all love to meet you. We're all friendly, and we hope to be helpful. My work is primarily really with people who have rolled up their sleeves, either seniors or for the most part, alumni who are in the process right now of submitting their applications to law school. So that's my expertise, and I can tell you with great certainty what that process is like. But the sort of navigating your way through Tufts, Karen and Susanna, and the sort of internships along the way, the ways you make use of your time at Tufts, I think you will have more information can come from Susanna and Karen. So that's how we divide our time and what we will be covering today. Susanna, will you take us to the next slide? Great. And so I'm going to ask Karen and Susanna to sort of just be here with me. There's two things that I'm looking for in inviting you guys to participate. One, I hear tell that my internet connection is unstable. And if that's the case and you lose me, I want everyone to be in good hands with others. And I'll try to log back in at the end. But the other is, we have a lot of expertise here. But I'm just going to give you a brief overview of all the people who are here with you to support jumbos who are thinking about and may end up in law school. The Career Center houses Susanna, Karen, and me, and we do a lot of work with people who are making up their mind, who sort of know that they have an interest, an academic or a vocational interest, and are trying to figure out how to get more experience, how to test the hypothesis that, like, maybe I'm feeling like law is the right decision. How do I test that out or get some work experience that will help me? There are also a number of clubs and organizations, and I'm not sure if we have anyone here, go ahead and raise your hand, but there's the Pre-Law Society, which is a club here at Tufts. There's Tufts Mock Trial. Those are gathering organizations of fellow students who are really engaging in things that may also interest you. But I have worked with many Tufts law school applicants who have done other on-campus leadership and undergrad, and club organization experiences. And those, if you get involved in the, Turtle Preservation Society of Tufts, right? If you discover that turtles are your thing and you want to preserve them and you want to teach children about them and you want to protect their habitat, and you end up being the president of the Tufts Turtles, club, that can be a platform for a successful law school application and a lot of life experiences that serve you well and set the stage for things. The Tufts Alumni Network is here to support you. And I would think that Amy and Stephen, this is where I want to call you to the front of the room to tell us a little bit about how Tufts continues to support its alums and the work and the experiences that Tufts Alumni Network can bring to students. So take it away, Amy and Stephen.
So I'll jump in, Amy, if you're being shy for a moment. So I'm Steve Feldman. I am the vice president of the Tufts Lawyers Association, which is a national organization of alumni who are either involved with careers in law or are in law school at this time or otherwise connected to law. And we do professional and educational events for members and for the greater Tufts community to support people's careers in law or their interest in law. Tom Dunn's the president of the organization right now, and I am the national vice president. You're going to get both of our email addresses as part of the resources, either in the chat or after the event today. And then in addition to the national board, we are made up of regional groups. So we have regional steering committees in New England and Boston, in Washington, D.C., in New York, where I'm located, and on the West Coast as well. So if you end up in different parts of the country, you can connect to us and talk about legal careers and learn from different alums in different communities. So quick mention of kind of what we do and what we're up to. So we recently did via Zoom an event on perspectives on racial disparities and legal outcomes that featured Professor Sam Summers and Honorable Timothy Lewis, who is a Tufts alum and a retired judge from the federal Third Circuit, volunteering with Lawyers for Civil Rights on election protection. We're also doing upcoming events, including navigating and changing the new normal in your legal career, where we're going to talk, that's on November 19th. We're going to talk about change management and leadership during COVID and assessing people's legal careers and how to strategically focus during self-assessment. So that's really for practicing lawyers. On December 8th, the New England group of TLA is going to do a panel of judges speaking about their work with a Q&A followed by breakout rooms and networking. And in mid-December, we're going to do in New York here another Zoom program about advancing your career and how to develop business for lawyers. So for young lawyers thinking about how they build their own legal career and their own legal practice. So I am, as well as many of us from the TLA, on the HERD, which is the Tufts network where you can connect with people who are interested in mentoring you. For example, my background quickly is I'm a former federal prosecutor from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York here in Manhattan. That I did that for 6.5 years, and I now spend my days doing white-collar criminal defense and investigations at a law firm in Manhattan. So there's many of us like me or with different practices all on the HERD and interested in connecting with you and being happy to do one-on-one conversations and mentor. And we can be, in addition to being resources that way, one of the other events we do each year is a Law Day on the Hill, which brings practicing lawyers and alums who are involved in law back to Tufts. It's usually at the end of February or early March. And it's a day where you can hear from practicing lawyers and also network with them and make connections about our careers and about thinking about careers in law. Finally, there's a Tufts Lawyers Network group on LinkedIn, as well as I mentioned the HERD and other social media. And so you are welcome to connect with us and then connect one-on-one with me or any of the colleagues who are involved. And we're committed to trying to help you guys out and being resources for you. So let me know how we can be helpful.
Thank you, Steve and Amy, for being here and for opening up the generosity of the Tufts Alumni Network. And I think that this is really important for the students who are here, right? Getting the chance to see real people who mean it when they say they want to talk to you is really helpful for us in doing our jobs, because we often kind of want to encourage you to talk to lawyers and it can feel scary. And I hope the chance to meet and hear from Steve and Amy makes it feel a little less scary, makes you know that on the other side of the conversation will be someone who genuinely wants to help you. We in the Career Center say that it is really helpful to hear from other jumbos about the path that they walked. You can learn a lot, you can get a lot more clarity, and these are safe conversations. These are people who are going to be rooting for you and not scrutinizing you, judging you, nitpicking you. They're going to, even if they have suggestions, offer them sort of gently, because they really literally know what it was like to be where you are, and they would love to translate that for you. And I think, the decision to go to law school, it will be a large investment of time and treasure. And so you want to be really clear what kinds of problems you'll get to work on, what kinds of people flourish while working on those problems, what the drawbacks are, and how to tell whether you're suited. And these are conversations that alums can really help you have. So one challenge I want to offer to you, and if you did nothing else from today, I think if you if you gave yourself a challenge to talk to one lawyer each semester, by the time you are thinking about law school, you would have had a number of conversations under your belt that would have given more reality and clarity to what it is lawyers work on every day, what makes someone skilled and suited for it, what the challenges, rewards, and difficulties and struggles of the career are, and then you'll be much more sophisticated about it. And if you're an overachiever, add a lawyer every break, right? One per semester, one per break. And you will have a group of people who are cheering you on, who are giving you ideas, who are giving you feedback, and can really make you a sophisticated applicant when the time comes, or turn you in a different direction, right? Both of those are good outcomes if they're done intelligently and well. And if you're nervous, if you find email Stephen, he says, yeah, let's have a phone call. And then you get really scared about what am I going to say? We can help you in the Career Center prepare for those conversations and get feeling confident so that you are ready. So thank you to both of you. If you're welcome to stay, but if you want to go back to your work, we understand.
I just want to add something quickly is that from Law Day, besides meeting lawyers, the biggest questions people always ask the panel, besides whatever their topic that they practice is, did you go straight through to law school? What was your major? Things like that. And in my years working with alumni at Tufts, all they really want to do is help other jumbos. And I've been at Law Day and had people, like Sherry said, be really nervous. Like, I don't think I'm dressed up enough for this event. Right now, no one's dressed up. We're all in our pajamas at home, or in your dorm room or wherever you are. But, it doesn't matter. It's the connection. It's the, hey, were you uphill or downhill? Oh, great. I lived in this dorm. It's a connection you can make with an alum. And as Steve explained, there are people all over the country, all over the world. So whether it's your hometown or where you think you might want to live later or go to law school, or you haven't even thought that far in advance, when you're home over break, you guys have a very long winter break, go on to the Herd, look up someone, or on the LinkedIn group, look up someone who's in LA, who's in DC, who's a lawyer, because they're going to be happy to talk to you, just answer your questions and say, oh, I took 2 years off. No, I went right through to law school. Here's where I went. This is why, I was a biology major. I was a poli-sci major. I was a classics major, anything like that. So there's a lot of information out there, but there's a lot of people that are willing to help you. So all you have to do is ask.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
So,
hi, guys.
bye. So beyond Tufts, right, and beyond the organizations we've talked about here, there are some other resources that I'm newish to Tufts, right? But Tish is always doing really interesting programs on governance, on law, on justice, on policy. And I think that keeping your eyes open to their programs will give you a chance to meet really interesting people and to sort of dive into your intellectual and service and vocational interests and flesh them out a little bit more. The poli-sci department is one of many, I would say, international relations, Fletcher School. There are a bunch of people, bye Amy. There are a bunch of events going on where you might meet lawyers and see and sort of test out your ideas. And then finally, there are some sort of resources beyond Tufts. This coming weekend is the National Black Pre-Law Conference, which is a really fantastic free national virtual conference. So if you don't know about that, I would just Google National Black Pre-Law Conference. It's fantastic. There is, right now, there are so many virtual events. If you get our newsletter, I would say the Law School Admissions Council is hosting a variety of virtual panels, virtual law days, and law school deans are running a lot of really interesting programs. Even though law school and the application process may be far away, I would say listening to these will give you a feel for the kinds of problems and the kinds of issues that come up. And so you can dabble in these kinds of things. And I think there's something wonderful about taking advantage of these when law school and your decisions and your action are still quite some time away, you can participate and dabble and dive in, and it won't be quite so fraught. So sometimes you're more creative and can listen better. So that's a lot. We're going to talk about this. We're going to maybe move into speed mode a little bit so we can cover all the things we have for you today. And I will start with a really quick overview of the law school admissions timeline. So we're going to work backwards from when you decide to go to law school, the year that you apply to law school. Law school, unlike undergrad, is a rolling admission process, which means the application period opens up in late summer or early fall, and then lasts through the springtime, right? February or March. Some law schools even accept people into the summer before you are applying, before you will be actually attending. And what happens is when they get applications, they read the files, and when they find someone good, they let them in, right? So they make offers of admission ongoing through this process. And if you think about that, what that means is as time goes on, they will have offered more and more of the available seats will be offered to people. Students don't have to say whether they're matriculating until the spring, until they've heard from all their law schools. But law schools sort of have fewer and fewer seats to offer. Now, they're professionals. They know every year they get a whole bunch of applications right before the deadline. So they don't, they save room for those applications that are coming later. But there is some statistical evidence that applications that are submitted first have a better chance of being admitted. They're in a better mood. They're less grumpy, right? There's money available. And if they have merit scholarship money, they start giving it out. And when they run out of that money, they can't, if they've promised it to someone else, they can't offer it to you. So applications that are received earlier just have the fullest chance. There are more seats available. So our advice is to aim to apply. Sometimes we say Halloween, sometimes we say Thanksgiving. I don't think it's important to be applying on September 1st. It's not the case that you need to be first in line, but sometime in the fall. So what do you need to have a complete application by Thanksgiving or Halloween? Well, you need to have taken a standardized test, either the LSAT or the GRE. The GRE gives you their results immediately, right when you take it. The LSAT takes about 3 weeks to get your score from when you take the test. The GRE is much more flexible. There are more opportunities to take it than the LSAT. It's offered fewer times. But the LSAT is the law school admissions test. It's accepted at every law school. And the GRE right now is accepted at a growing number of law schools, about 47 or 48. So not all of them out of the 200 or so ABA approved law schools. So you'll need to have some test scores, and my advice is you're going to need to prepare for those tests probably for about 3 months to feel ready to get the best score you can, maybe a little less for the GRE. You'll need to submit your Tufts transcript. And typically, Tufts will send their transcript along within 1 business day of when you request it. That seems to work pretty smoothly. But it takes the receiving end, the Law School Admissions Council, 2 to 3 weeks to process that request. You'll want to get 2 or 3 letters of recommendation, preferably from Tufts professors. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And it is courteous, and you want to be courteous to anyone you're asking to do a favor for you. It's courteous to give your professors about a month, 4 to 6 weeks, not because they're going to spend a month drafting your letter of recommendation, but so they can slot it into their semester at a time when they have capacity, when they're not rushed and crammed. Professors get grumpy when you have a very quick turnaround, and it comes when they are, deep in grading and other responsibilities and deadlines. And you don't want someone grumpy writing your letter of recommendation. And then you will submit 1 or possibly 2 essays. And in my experience, even great writers, here at Tufts benefit from redrafting those, 3 to 6 times. So typically people are working on their law school admissions materials sort of for sometimes people get it really done very quickly over a 3-week period, and sometimes they stretch out. I've been working with people from, since late August. Some of them have already submitted. Some of them are just getting ready to pull the trigger. So that's what you will be submitting. And then you will wait and bite your nails, and then start getting good news from law schools over the course of that rolling admission period. Any questions about what this process looks like? Okay, we'll have time for questions at the end, so absorb. So what matters? Well, law schools are going to care. They're really going to ask 2 important questions. Are you smart enough to succeed in the academic program that we offer? And the way they're going to answer that question is to look at your GPA to see how you've done in rigorous academic settings before. They're going to use your test scores to supplement that information because, again, they're comparing GPAs from vastly different kinds of schools, so that standardized test is a sort of yardstick. The letters of recommendation from professors are a really gold standard. They help. It's someone who can describe what having you in a rigorous academic setting is like, and that really helps them see it. And then to some extent, your essay will be important. I mean, it will be very important to your application, but it will help answer the question, not only, are you smart enough to go to this law school, but what flavor of smart person are you? And the way I think about it is you will be sitting in your first year of property class, and you will have a study group, and it will be very confusing, and you'll be working with your friends, and one of your friends in the study group may have been working with human trafficking victims in India for the last 9 years. Another person is all about the right whales and was a lifeguard and was a bio major and was a marine, into marine biology and decided to go to law school to save the right whales. And someone else wants to be the next Republican governor of Alabama. And there's you, and you're going to fight, and you're going to be different, and you all belong in law school. It makes it an interesting place to have people with really different backgrounds there. So you don't need to be like a law student, right? In fact, there will be many commonalities that you have, but your differences will make you attractive to law school. And the essays are one of the ways that you show what your motivation is and what you will be like in that study group. Susanna, let's go to what does not matter. And I want to be careful about this. I don't want to say this doesn't matter. Your major, of course, your major matters, right? Study abroad, your clubs, your internships and jobs. It's not as though those things don't matter. They will be really important to you and to whether you flourish and to the story that you tell to law school. But I am working with a Tufts alum who is a performance and music performance major, poli-sci majors, English majors, right, bio majors. So your major is not determinative the way friends of yours who are going to medical school, they have a really particular set of courses that they must take in order to meet the requirements. And if those courses aren't there on the transcript, they're going to have to go take some other courses and put them on the transcript before they can go. That is not the case for law school. So my advice about major is choose a major where you will flourish and where your ability to succeed doing hard academic work will be apparent to law schools. But you do not need to do a law-ish major. Similarly, study abroad, go enjoy the world. Whether you do study abroad or where you do it it's not that it won't matter to law schools, but one is not better than another from a law school perspective. We talked about clubs, right? And I would say it is not unusual for people who are in meetings like this to be interested and drawn to the pre-law society, to be drawn to the mock trial society, to be drawn to things like Amnesty International, right? You're working towards fairness, and but you needn't do those things, and doing those things will not make you stand out to a law school, right? They are going to see plenty of people with those backgrounds, and those people, succeed very well in law school, but so do people who rescue turtles or perform music or, get involved in athletics. And Susanna and Karen are going to talk to you about internships and jobs, where to look for those and how those might play in. But it is not the case that there is a particular path that will sort of, if you don't do it, you're not going to get into law school. So I hope that can be sometimes anxiety provoking, because your pre-med friends, like, they've really got to march on a line and there are more choices available to you. But I hope you see the opportunity it presents to really explore and flourish, and it won't leave you like there's nothing that you're supposed to be doing that you're not doing. And I hope that that gives you a sense of freedom and possibility. So these next steps, I would say, think about when you're choosing courses, you have some freedom. So think about what readings you really like to do, right? What you do first and what you sort of dread, and move towards where you're going to flourish. That will be helpful to you from a pragmatic standpoint, because it will help your GPA if you are doing things that you are strong in and fascinated by. I do think paying attention to whether you have strong relationships with faculty and what settings will allow you to develop those relationships, so that professors can advocate for you when it comes time to get a letter of recommendation. And where you will flourish and be your best self. And then that will create experiences you can write to a law school about. And then some questions of how you might meet lawyers, right? You have the Tufts, Lawyers Association available to you, but you may seek out jobs, internships, and other experiences where you just get to kind of find and spy on lawyers and get to know them, so you have a better sense of whether it's a fit for you. So I think that is my part. I want to pass the torch to my colleagues.
Good deal. I will go ahead and unmute here. So a quick look at career advising, in case you are unfamiliar, haven't been into CS before, or I say into CS from your place of residence. I've had to grow accustomed to asking people, where are you located this semester? But just so you know, we do offer 30-minute advising and 15-minute question appointments with all three of us, as well as our career lab, which is really great for, it's a drop-in, no appointment needed. There will be a career advisor there, and also career fellows who are trained peer advisors who can help you. And you also have the opportunity to go into a breakout room and kind of discuss something one-on-one there. Here's a quick look at the topics, what we discuss. As you'll see, a lot of different things. And what we really love in appointments is just having that opportunity to hear from you, your individual goals and interests. And I'm just continually fascinated by all the things that people are interested in and want to do. So I'd really encourage you to make an appointment to get that conversation started. And I would say we also have a lot of resources online, which leads me to our next slide. Super excited to announce that we have a new website as of yesterday. So our presentation is well timed. And if you haven't already checked your career e-news, you received career e-newsletter today. You get that weekly. I'm biased. I think it's an excellent newsletter, but even just a quick scan each week will tell you all the important things you need to know about what we're doing. One thing I did want to point out that's particularly important and just pertinent to you right now with the new site is our career communities, one of which is government law, international affairs, though you are more than welcome to follow along with any that interest you. You don't have to pick one and do only that. But here on this slide, I just wanted to be sure and tell you some of what's new and different about the communities. There will be a dynamic blog section where we will have advice from career advisors. We will have student success stories, resources. Another nice feature is that the internships, jobs, events, and alumni mentors, which is kind of a long list, but those things have all been curated for each career community. So it'll just be a way to get to the information that interests you in faster and easier way. Another thing I wanted to mention is our subgroups with kind of our favorite links for a variety of things. And that would be job and internship search resources, career exploration. Pretty much anytime we have a favorite link, we are going to be continually updating those subgroups. The other piece I wanted to mention is videos from our YouTube channel. So some of you may have seen this already. I have a presentation called Creating Change Through Law, which is, needless to say, super relevant. Also, federal and state government opportunities employer panel is another good example. And the final thing I wanted to mention around these new communities, just easier access to resources. A lot of times you would have to click in, 2-3 times to get to a resource, and now they're going to be just more integrated everywhere. So I could go on and on, but I will not. I'm super excited. You will get that link tomorrow with the rest of the resources we're going to send you. So exploring internships and jobs. I know we, in the Career Center, given what we do, we are so all about exploration. But what I wanted to say about that is that it's a continual process. Internships help you explore. They help you decide what you like and don't like. Even jobs, even if it's a job or another type of skill building opportunity after Tufts, you're always exploring and you're always gathering new information that will help inform your decisions. So I'd really be thinking about these questions. Which interests would you like to explore? What do you love to do? What are you good at? What do you like to do? And which skills would you like to build? And what sorts of settings will allow you to do that? So let me go forward to those potential internship and job settings. And I would say just right off the bat, this is only a small handful. There are many, many, many places where your skills and talents can be put to great use. So government being one, federal, state, local. USA Jobs, some of you may be familiar with that. The USA Jobs portal, the Pathways program for internships and for recent grads can be helpful to check out. With state and local positions, something to think about is sometimes in those environments, you actually have more autonomy and more responsibility at kind of in that smaller pond, let's say. So sometimes the setting, you may want to think about it from that perspective. Also on the slide, nonprofits, NGOs, think tanks, policy in a big old line, but I pulled out just a few interest areas as examples. One thing I really would encourage you to do if this is an area of interest for you would be to go to idealist.org and do an organization search. You can do a great search by location, by issue area, and also by type of organization. And just start that research. What employers sound interesting? Go to their sites. What are they doing? Does it speak to you? And there are so many examples just within these areas. It would be a presentation unto itself. Also, of course, other settings, law firms, a possibility. I know, I don't know of many internships during undergrad at law firms, just because usually, as some of you may already know, they tend to be looking for 1Ls, 2Ls students who are in law school. That's not to say that it doesn't happen. It's just to say good news, there are lots of places where you can intern if that's something you're looking for. And of course, private sector, many, many types of organizations with internships where there's some overlap. So let me go forward. It's a busy slide, bear with me, but I did want to share with you that these 4 resources, which again, fear not, we will send along. I don't want you to feel like you have to write this all down. Finding opportunities, these are both great for jobs and internships. In the case of this slide, I pulled out some sample internships, but what I want you to notice is just the keywords we're picking up on. It's not all law and legal. And I confess a lot of times if you search that, again, you're getting those internships that might be for law students in law school. But what are you seeing? It's congressional, policy, global development, policy again, research, development, communication. So think about what that would look like for you, which sorts of keywords resonate with you. And yeah, there are just a lot of really interesting opportunities out there and ways to develop skills and gain experience. And I think that was all. Oh, I did want to say one more thing. So I've talked with a lot of people lately about the timing of various things. When should I apply? When is a good time for internships? Super great question. And sometimes I wish I could give like this just one date. That doesn't so much exist. Some programs recruit earlier, like there's deadlines that have already passed, and that's okay. There is no possible way to catch everything. Some it might be November 15th, November 30th, January 1st, and beyond. What I would say is if you look at an organization and you're interested, keep a list, jot that down for the future. There are a lot of internships that are for the spring postings right now, but that doesn't mean that there couldn't be something really neat for the summer if you kind of keep tabs on that organization. So great to just keep lists of things that look interesting and return back. Moving forward, and I will hand it over to Karen.
Great. Thank you, Susanna. So this is the kind of inspirational piece that Sherry alluded to in the beginning. We're going to talk about interesting career paths that Tufts graduates pursue. There are many out there. You've heard a lot about how active jumbos are and how willing Tufts alumni are in terms of talking to students, having career exploration conversations, no matter what field you're interested in, but definitely in this area, as Steve and everyone else has alluded to. So many of you may be here because you've thought about law as a possible career, and along the same lines, many of you may be here because you're interested in one of these career paths, advocacy, justice, and policy. So we wanted to go through kind of similar to what Susanna just went through in terms of internships, but some potential jobs and career paths and their examples that we've found that Tufts alumni are already involved in or already pursuing, just to give you a sample of what's out there, to let you know about jobs that alumni are pursuing right now that you can explore and have career conversations with them. And we can talk a little bit more about how to do that. Some of the employers and organizations that are out there, here we go. Here's some interesting career paths. And this is just a tiny little sample, but that Tufts graduates are pursuing right now with a bachelor's degree. So they haven't gone on to any further schooling. They may plan to, they may not, but a lot of interesting opportunities in those fields of advocacy, justice, and policy. And as Susanna pointed out, you'll see some of those keywords that she talked about. It's not going to be all in one area. There's quite a lot of variety out there. And there are nonprofit organizations, government organizations, NGOs, quite a variety that's out there. And I just found these as a sample that looked interesting through LinkedIn and through the Herd, which we've touched on a couple times throughout the presentation. So the Herd is a mentor database that all students have access to. We've got, I think, close to 3,000 Tufts alumni in there, and they've actively volunteered to sign up and talk to students about their career paths. So you could ask them anything from kind of how they decided to pursue that path with their particular major and internship experience, and how those all combined with clubs and volunteer activities and things they were involved in, and what led them on their particular path, and what was most useful in developing the skills and experiences were necessary to get that job. So the Herd is a mentor database. LinkedIn, many of you have probably heard about, seen, or maybe you even have a profile already. But pretty much all professionals are on LinkedIn, but there are many Tufts groups that you can join. There are ways to do searches specifically on Tufts alumni. And Susanna and I are happy to meet with you, like we said, throughout your 4 years and kind of guide you in contacting Tufts alumni and reaching out and how to ask questions, perhaps ask for a career conversation, an informational interview to learn more about their path, and how that might inform your own decisions about interesting opportunities you get involved in during your time at Tufts. So if we want to go to the next slide, we can take a look at some more interesting career paths. And these are career paths that Tufts graduates are pursuing right now, and they have a graduate degree. So I thought it might be useful to take a look at some of the degrees on the left that are out there. Many of you might be familiar with one or two, but you might not be. But there are many different options out there. And since this is really kind of a career exploration program where you're thinking about law, but perhaps not sure, and you might want to know just what is out there related to advocacy, justice, and policy. So there are many other degrees out there where you might be able to pursue careers in these paths, and there might be very interesting work involved and skills that you can take advantage of. And they may or may not require a law degree. These individuals right here don't happen to have a law degree. It may be something they intend to pursue, and maybe something that they're not thinking about. They're able to pursue their career path without it. So we just wanted to give you that information. And if we go to the next slide, we can go into a little bit more detail just on the next three. I know there's a lot of data here, but you'll be able to read more closely when we send out our information. But this is just one alum working in advocacy for, I believe it's the largest New England organization, coalition promoting rights for immigrants and refugees. And you can see she's class of 2019. She's pursuing this entry-level position with her bachelor's from Tufts. And you can see what activities she's involved in. So if you were to log into LinkedIn or the Herd, you could find an alum such as this, just one example of someone involved in an advocacy career, and try to set up a conversation with her just to ask more questions. So if we want to go to the next one, here's another excellent example, also a 2019 grad, working with the World Justice Project, doing research, doing analysis, writing, acting as a liaison, all sort of skills and tasks and experiences that you will develop throughout your 4 years at Tufts to give you that experience to be ready for a position like this and to be a strong candidate. So these are just to show you examples of entry-level roles that you don't need a graduate degree to pursue. And if we go to the next one, this is another interesting path that a Tufts graduate is pursuing. He's been out of school a little bit longer and does have graduate degrees and is working as a policy analyst with the U.S. Committee on Energy and Commerce for the House of Representatives. So definitely a little bit more in depth, you know, close to a decade out of school, pursued a graduate degree. So in the same field of policy, but had taken a different path to get to the career he wanted to pursue. So we hope that all of these just spark, you know, your interest and give you ideas of other areas you might want to explore as you kind of continue on this whole self-assessment and career exploration process, trying to find the right fit. So I think now we're happy to do some Q&A. If students have questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat, and or maybe students can just jump in. The chat might be easier.
So we will look for your questions, and I'm going to challenge students who are here. I'm going to ask you to take a tiny scrap of paper. You don't need to share this with us, although you may if you like. And I want you to think about one thing you're going to research that you learned about in this program. Maybe it's look up what Tufts Lawyers Association is doing, or maybe it is, Idealist, that sounded cool, or maybe it is how do I set up Handshake, right? So I want something you're gonna learn more about, or I didn't know there was a Master's of Public Policy Administration, right? Like I didn't know that was a thing, right? I didn't know that for a really long time. And then one thing you're going to do, and maybe do means I'm going to make an appointment to come in and talk to Karen. Maybe it is I'm going to work on my resume. I've been meaning to do that for a while and I haven't updated it since high school. Maybe it is I'm going to write to my aunt because she's been telling me she was going to, have an internship in her office and I never followed up. I don't know what your do is, but I want to challenge you not to leave this without a plan to do something and to learn something. With that.
I love that. I love that. Good question. How has the pandemic impacted law school admissions, if at all?
Ooh, Connor, I love your question, and we can get really nerdy together on this, but I think the short answer is we don't know yet, right? This is the first cycle of people who are applying during the pandemic. I would say people worry a lot about the impact of having EP fail, right? Like that grades were weird last semester and grades might be weird this semester. And that has been sort of absorbed by the law school admissions process. Law school admissions folks are like, don't worry, we know grades are weird. We're not going to hold that against you. I think a larger question is, are more people going to law school as a result of the pandemic? And it is early in the rolling admissions cycle, but signs point to yes. The volume is way up. It's up 60% from this time last year. That might be just a lot of people had time on their hands and they were able to apply earlier and they'll trickle out and the same number of people will apply. Or maybe there's just a lot more people. And sometimes some people speculate that there's, fear of a recession. There are fewer job opportunities. So grad school really looks good to people in such times. Other people say, gosh, there's a lot of lawyers in the news these days. And so being a lawyer looks like a path towards being influential. Hard to say. So Connor, I'm watching very carefully. And I have, we can go for a long walk and analyze what's happening when the cycle is through. But I would say more people are applying, more good people seem to be applying, people with high grades and high test scores. So it might be a little harder to get into law school this year than it has been in the past few years. Stay tuned.
Can I jump in with another pandemic related comment? If anything, many internships are open to you geographically than ever before. So where it says DC or remote and you're like, ooh, shoot, I don't know if I can afford to live in DC. Sometimes that means an opportunity has opened up to you. Now, granted, it's harder when you're not in person, but I do think there may be learning experiences that weren't available before. We have another question. For students who don't plan to go right away to law school, would you still recommend professors for the letter of recommendations?
That's a great question. Here's what I would say. While you're here, get to know those professors so you have them in the bag. Generally, the rule of thumb is if you've been out of school for fewer than 5 years, it's great to have a professor letter of recommendation. The professor letter of recommendation is the gold standard for getting into law school. And that's because law schools are trying to figure out if you can do the work in class. So a boss who says you've got great customer service and you're always on time and customers love you, that doesn't tell a law school as much about what having you in class will be like as as a professor, even if that professor had you 4 years ago, the professor can say, you know, I really appreciated their ability to synthesize the class materials into cogent essays, right?
Mhm.
That's going to be really instructive to a law school.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we could have that conversation when you're an active law school applicant. If you're 3 or 4 years out and you're like, it was a long time ago and I've changed a lot, that can be something. But I would say for now, while you're at Tufts, make sure you have those relationships.
And Sherry, another good question. You guys have such great questions. How important is it to diversify your letters as far as not the same major or topic within that major, diversification?
Not important. It's not important, right? They're not going to scrutinize like, I wish they'd gotten, you know, they don't care. They're using the letters to find out about you. And so it doesn't matter if your professor is an adjunct visiting professor or a senior, you know, tenured emeritus professor.
Mm-hmm.
The status, the department, the importance, the fanciness of your recommender is unimportant. Their ability to write in detail and shed light on what you are like in class is what matters. And so, so you don't need to sort of artfully go and pursue, you know, get a STEM professor and a history professor. No, if they're all from one major, that's okay. That's pretty appropriate and it's pretty common, frankly.
Yeah, that's a great point. We say, don't fall into the CEO trap, which is, oh, this person is the most important person, therefore it will lend more weight to my recommendation. But if the recommender doesn't know you very well, you can tell as the reader, and it ends up looking like a lukewarm reference. Even if you're great, like you're the best applicant ever, it's not that person who knows you really well. So, let's see, a couple minutes left. Oh, another question. Is it good to get a recommendation from Tufts alumni as well?
That's not necessary, really. I mean, really what you're looking for to the law school is to supplement your application so they feel confident you can do legal academic work. So other academic work matters. I mean, if you happen to end up working for a Tufts alum or you have a relationship with a Tufts alum, but it's not necessary and it won't necessarily carry weight. It's really about what environment were they able to witness you in, and how will their ability to talk about that reassure law schools that you'll be successful at the law school.
Mm-hmm. And my sister is a Vanderbilt Law School grad, and she often does alumni interviews. So there's a chance that you may, let's say you want to go to XYZ Law School, and there are Tufts alum there. You may have a chance to interact with someone in the admissions process. So they could factor in at some point. I think we're getting just about to time. So just really wanted to thank everyone for being here. Again, another career advising plug, but we really love speaking with you and encourage you to make an appointment just to kind of check in with us and keep your momentum going.
Thanks, everyone. I want to honor the time that's here. We'll hang around just a few more minutes, you know, if anyone has last questions, but you can also speak directly with us, and we want to support you all along the way. So I hope this has answered some of the questions as you steer your way, and we will be on your team when and if it's time to apply for law school. The Tufts network has your back all the way through and beyond.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.